Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome tonight for our council meeting today, the 27th of August 2024, as we're drawing an end to a council term, and we look forward to seeing you all present at our last meeting, our last formalised meeting where we can make important decisions, which will be Monday the 16th of September at the Boorman Hall at the 6 p.m. As per here. But thank you for coming out. We know it's a little bit cold. We did want to save the Oxley Hall committee some money. We decided not to put the heaters on. But I'm happy, Neil, if any time you want to get up and put them on, no problems at all. Ladies and gentlemen, this public meeting is being recorded to improve access to the meeting for our community. The recording will be published and will be retained by council in accordance with council's obligations. And as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge our traditional owners on the land on which we're meeting, pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and elders from other communities who may be here today with us. Our opening prayer is, Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberations so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go around the room of our council area here, and I'll start across with Marcus Goonan, who will introduce himself and his role that he plays at council, plus all our councils and the wards in which they represent. Thank you, Director Goonan.
Marcus Goonan, Director of Community and Infrastructure. Hello, I'm Stephen Thorpe, I'm the Director of Sustainability and Culture.
Thanks, Jack, with the microphone. Right hand down on there.
Good evening, everyone. Jack Harry, Councillor.
Ash Fitzpatrick, Councillor.
We went from North Ward, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Dean Rees, Mayor of the Rural City of Wellington.
Brendan McGrath, CEO. Harry Russell, Councillor in the Great King Valley Ward.
Councillor Dave Fuller.
Councillor R.M. Grant, and I represent Warby Ward with the whole of the rural city of Wellington.
Sarah Brindley, Director of Corporate and Pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the evening council meeting, we have public question time, and we urge, if you've got any questions, we will try and answer them on the spot. If we can't, we will take them on notice and we will get back to you privately. We ask that you stay around and have some fine nibbles and bits and pieces at the end of this meeting. We look forward to sharing some banter with you. We'll move straight down now through to item number 7, which is the confirmation of our previous minutes. And I looked at Councillor Benton. Would you like to move that recommendation? Thank you. Can I have a second to Councillor Fuller? If there's no response from the audience, we'll look to confirm those minutes with everyone. Councillor, all those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. I'll now move on to a conflict of interest, and I'll look firstly to Councillor Harvey Benson as my deputy. Councillor Benson, do you have a conflict with a couple of matters here tonight?
Yes, so the conflict with the conflict with 12.1, direct association, I suppose it is, with the stock agent company that works there, I'm a family member, and I have a conflict, I feel, of 14.5, being on executive of one of the
Councillor Benson, you are happy to step aside for these issues when they come to you. Thank you. I'll now move down to presentation of reports, and I'll look to Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not so much a report, but just a shout out to the Queen of Oxley. It's her birthday today, the whole day. So happy birthday, 75. Congratulations, Janet. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Janet. Queen Janice, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Fuller. We'll move now straight to officers' reports. Executive service, I'll hand over to Director Brindley, but first again, Councillor Benton, you're stepping out. Can you please mention why you're stepping out?
I am stepping out because I'm in association with one of the stock agents companies that works out of the yards, and family member also works.
Thank you.
Thank
Hearing
you.
walking through. Director Ringley, thank you.
So this report is presented to councillors to endorse the reappointment of one of the independent directors of the Wangaratta Livestock Exchange Board. The board have recommended to council the reappointment of one of their members whose current term has expired for a further 2-year term. So the recommendation is that council reappoints the director for a term of 2 years commencing tomorrow, and then authorises the signing of the relevant paperwork to confirm that, and then discloses the name of the reappointed director, whose details are in the confidential attachment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the gallery on this point? No. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Bustle and Councillor Grant. Councillor Bustle, do you want to talk on the livestock?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank all these people who run the sale yards now. It runs so much better than what it used to. It's such an important facility, and it's an absolute credit to these people how it's run now. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Grant, do you have anything to say?
Perhaps to reiterate Councillor Bustle's comments, but also to say in the short time since the livestock exchange, well, it wasn't in peril, but I think at one stage it looked like it wasn't really going to be viable, and I would like to acknowledge the work of the board in revigorating the facility and providing a much needed service to the rural community, and I think they've done a fantastic job.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to talk on the livestock exchange? Thank you. I'll also make a mention. I'd like to point out that the head of the board there, John Maraca, who helped out in getting the livestock exchange back on track, has done a fantastic job and got a band of great people. I'd also like to point out to the great governance work that the rural city has held up and done a great job through our director Sarah Brindley to also get the governance correct and right, and we look at the figures that pass through that stock exchange that we haven't seen for 20 years or more, and it's a great asset for the rural city of Wangaratta. So thanks to all the board members and our director Sarah for the great governance and work you've done in lining up the board to make sure we tick all the boxes and dot the I's and cross the T's. So thank you. So, Councillor Bustle as the mover, anything further? No. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And the recommendation is carried. Director Ridley, can you announce the...
Yeah, and the name of the reappointed director is Chris Roach.
Okay, corporate and leisure. We're going to move on to 13.1. Sorry. Harvey. Harvey, sorry, we better get Harvey. Yeah, try. No. Director again, 13.1, which is our council plan, strategic indicators and actions update to quarter 4 for 2023-24.
Thank you. So every, twice a year, council reports to the community on the progress of delivering the actions and commitments that are made in the council's 4-year council plan. So this is the report that covers up to the end of last financial year, so the Q4 report for the 23-24 financial year. And the recommendation is that councillors note the council plan, strategic indicators and actions performance for quarter 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the gallery on this item? No? Can I look for a mover, please? Councillor Fuller, Councillor Grant with a second. Councillor Fuller, did you want to talk about it? No? Councillor Grant, nothing further. Does any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? No? Thank you. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? and the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Director. Can we talk about 13.2, the draft Audit and Risk Committee Charter for 2024?
Yes, thank you. So it's a requirement of council that within each council term the Audit and Risk Committee Charter is reviewed. That committee provides quite an important role in terms of providing independent oversight of council's financial management and risk management. That charter has been reviewed and some improvements made, including defining the annual increases of remuneration to the committee and how they're paid, how we induct new members to that committee as they come on, and how applicants to the committee are vetted, along with a few other obligations that they have of making those very clear in the charter. The draft charter has been also shared with the committee members themselves and their recommendations considered and incorporated. So the recommendation this evening is now for council to endorse the updated charter, as it is essentially what we call a major council policy document, to also put the document on public exhibition for 28 days to welcome any feedback from the community, and then if we receive feedback requesting change, that we consider that at a future council meeting. If not, that we adopt the policy without further change. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from the gallery on this point? No. I'll look at someone to move that recommendation. Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Fuller again to second. Councillor Fitzpatrick, anything to talk on this? Yeah? No. Okay, thank you. Councillor Fuller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for all those people that are racing out to contribute to this conversation, just noting that the last day is actually a public holiday. The office will be closed, but they'll still accept by email. So make sure you get your submissions in nice and early so you don't miss out on that last day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? No. We'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Director Brindley. That's it for you so far. 14.1 is community and infrastructure, and it is the PR0569 Cruise Street remediation work, and I'll look to Director Goonan for a summary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is presented to Council to recommend the award of the Cruise Street remediation works. Cruise Street has experienced some substantial subsidence due to drainage movement and needs to be reinstated. As part of the works, the road will be excavated down to a depth of the existing drainage. Remediation work will be undertaken to fix the drain, backfill the trench, etc. The recommendation is that Council awards the contract to Longford Civil, authorises Chief Executive to sign and discloses the contract price.
Thank you. Director, is there any questions from the gallery on this point? Thank you. Can I look at someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Benton and Councillor Fitzpatrick to second it. Councillor Benton, do you want to talk on this? No? Councillor Fitzpatrick? Any other councillor like to talk on it? Yeah, please. Councillor Herrick.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a quick mention on this item because it is a relatively new piece of infrastructure. So I myself was left wondering why it required quite significant works. But I have been reassured on a number of points, and the adequate testing, the normal testing for this sort of infrastructure was conducted, and it passed those tests at the time of completion and construction. And unfortunately, the guarantee period for these sorts of works is just 12 months, which I feel is very short for a significant piece of infrastructure, but it's a fairly industry standard sort of thing. So it's just a unfortunate situation at the end of the day, but a critical piece of infrastructure which we can't leave broken.
Thank you, Councillor Herrick. There's no other questions or queries, and thank you for your explanation. Director Goon, I'd just like to clear up a point on this, which I get a lot of questions about, etc. This is a drainage issue and not a sewerage issue or anything like that. Obviously, a lot of people think that North East Water handle drainage, and stormwater, etc., but it has always been a council responsibility.
Yes, stormwater is council's responsibility. Obviously, drinking water and sewer is North West Water.
Great, thank you. If there's no other councillor wanting to speak, Councillor Benton, you with a move, you're right. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Director Gooner, we'll move on to, disclose the price, the mediation works.
It's $654,822.58.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 14.2, which is PR0590, which is the Warina Park Oval upgrade. Thank you, Director.
This report is presented to Council with the recommendation to award the contract for the Warina Park upgrade. Warina Park Oval has been highlighted as requiring upgrade for quite some time now. The upgrades include widening the oval, installation of new subsoil drainage and irrigation to allow us to plant that during the wetter months. Council had a capital works budget for this project, but also received $600,000 in funding from Regional Community Sports Infrastructure Fund. The recommendation is the Council awards the works to Gordon Gibson, authorises the CEO to sign and seal the documents, and discloses the contract price.
Thank you, Director. Are there no questions from the gallery? I'll look for a mover. Councillor Grant to move, and to second, Councillor Benton. Councillor Grant, do you want to talk on the recommendation for Warina Park Oval upgrade?
Yes, indeed, Mr Mayor, and I'm pleased to see that the upgrade for Warina Park is going ahead, and that we've received substantial funding to contribute to that step forward, and I see this oval upgrade as another step in realising the whole upgrade of the Warina Park complex, because it's a pretty special part of Wangaratta, and I think we haven't realised the potential of that particular space.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Benton.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's been a long time coming, this upgrade, and being the sports portfolio, it's been one that's taken meticulous effort to get the master plan up and done, and to know that that oval has been in the winter time very trying for the sports to be conducted there, and it'll take pressure off our other ovals, which are taxed very heavily throughout the year. So it's probably been long overdue. At least we're getting there now. Fantastic.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other councillors like to talk? Councillor Bussell, please use the microphone.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. This is a very, very important piece of infrastructure in Wangaratta. Wangaratta can be very, very proud of the green ovals that we have in Wangaratta. It's only a couple of years ago that my son played footy on this oval, and the mud was over the top of his footy boots. It was that bad. And this will just make all the difference for not only the people that use the ground, but also the pleasure that the spectators get from watching the sport on this field. So I think this is a really, really valuable project for Wangaratta. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors like to talk? No? Councillor Grant has the move. You've done nothing further. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Director Goonan, could you disclose the price of the works?
Yes, it is $1,488,211.02. The 2 cents is important.
Okay, we'll move to 14.3, which is contract PR0535, which is the Red Camps Bridge. Director Goonan.
This report is presented to Council with the recommendation to award the Red Camps Bridge construction. The existing bridge is a 3-span cast in situ reinforced concrete bridge constructed over Boggy Creek. The deck of this bridge needs to be strengthened to increase the capacity to carry current loaded semis. It is part of our existing bridge renewal program. Council had a capital works budget for this project and was also lucky enough to receive $520,000 in grant funding from the Australian Government Bridge Renewal Program. Recommendation: award the contract contract to Waratah Constructions, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign the documents and disclose the contract price.
Thank you, Director. Any questions from the gallery on the Red Coast Bridge? No, thank you. I look for a mover of the recommendation. Councillor Benton, and a seconder, Councillor Bustle. Councillor Benton, anything to say?
It's probably another situation where it's been a long time coming to it. I think the residents out that way put up with this bridge for some time, so it's just wonderful to be able to keep working through our bridge program actually and get some of these major projects done. It's very difficult times at this time of the year, with the financial situation as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Bustle, anything to say?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We have a very good bridge renewal program, and this council's been steadily working through them for some years now. And I think the lifespan of bridges, 100 years or something for the new bridges, and we've gone through many bridges in the last 20 years in this council. So it'll put Rural City of Wangaratta in pretty good shape, and this is just one more great piece of infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to talk on the recommendation before I do? No? Thank you. I'd just like to pull Director Goonan up on something when he says lucky enough to be able to get the money. It's through the hard work of the department that Marcus runs to put the right applications in the right times to make sure that we get the money, that it doesn't cost us all here in the community. So it's the work of the council to put those bits and pieces in to get that. So great job by all. So it's not through luck, it's through hard work. So I'll put the recommendation now, if there's no other, put to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Director 14.4, which is our, disclose the price again.
$641,605.54.
14.4, which is the PO 0258, the annual reseal. I look forward to your comments here.
This report is presented to Council to recommend the award of our 24-25 annual reseal program. As part of our asset renewal program, Council completes an annual road reseal program based on road condition data. The reseal program consists of preparation of bitumen seal on selected roads in the urban and rural areas. Recommendation that Council awards the contract to Coral Resources, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign and discloses the contract price.
Thank you. Can I have someone move that recommendation? Councillor Grant, seconder. Councillor Benton. Are there any questions from the gallery first? Sorry. No. I've got my mover and my seconder. Councillor Grant, please.
Well, only to say that this is one of the most important and an area that councils are always judged on what their roads look like, and our reseal program is very much part of what council does, and I'm certainly pleased to see that we continue to maintain a very robust reseal program.
Thank you. Councillor Benton.
Yes, I just endorse what Councillor Green said, and it does start to alleviate some of the survey that we have within the council, where the biggest issue we have is roads, concerns that come through, and even though we might be benchmarked against the rest of the state, we're doing pretty well. I still think this is one of the areas that throughout the state, when we went to a state conference the other day, it was one of the major issues, roads. Not the most thing in the council agenda, but it's one of the most important things, as Councillor Green said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? No. We'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Director Goonan, disclose the cost.
$750,924.84.
Thank you. Next item is 14.5.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and
Sorry, I just want to be able to step outside before we even...
Clear a conflict, because one of the executives of the applicants that the matter relates to.
Okay.
to speak to Director Green from going into a great preamble, because I'm going to actually ask that we hold over the decision on this particular item until the next meeting. There are a number of areas of clarification that I would like to see brought to council. So if we could hold it over, so I'm moving a motion that we hold this particular item over to our September meeting.
Lovely, thank you. Can I get a second to that? Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. I'll just go to all councillors. No point in bringing it to the public for question time, because we will come back with this item at the next council meeting. Are all those in favour? Yes, and that recommendation is carried. We'll bring that forward. Director Goonan will bring that item forward to next council meeting on the 16th of September. Councillor Benton may enter. Probably gone out to the smoke. He doesn't smoke. Maybe a drink. Yeah. Welcome. Did you do the dishes out there? Right, okay. Thank you. We're going to move straight now to item 14.6, which is the Community Asset Committee nominations. Again, Director Goonan, I'll look for your summary, please.
This report is presented to Council to endorse nominations for volunteers for the Committees of Management under Community Asset Committee Instrument of Delegation at the following halls and rec reserves: Oxley Shire Hall, Whitfield Recreation Reserve, Everton Hall and Recreation Reserve, and Edi Upper Hall and Reserve. These are additional community members who have requested spots on local committees of management since the last council meeting, and council officers are in support of these nominations. The nominations are for a 3-year period, and a list of nominated members will be read out after the recommendation is approved, if approved. The recommendation is that council endorses the nominations in the attached report for community asset committees at the locations already read.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions in the gallery on this point? No. I look for a mover, Councillor Bustle, to move, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Bustle, do you need to talk on the recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I want to congratulate all these volunteers, and particularly since we're here in the Oxley Shire Hall here in Oxley, and you can see what condition this hall's kept in. It's an absolute credit to the volunteers that really look after these places if they own them, and it's an absolute credit to everybody who volunteers and puts their hand up. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Nothing to say? Harry summed it up. Great. Any other councillor like to talk on this? No, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Councillor Bustle, are you prepared now to read the nominations and the halls that they're associated with, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Joan Marr, Oxley Shire Hall. Claire Cowdery, Oxley Shire Hall. Erica Pike, Oxley Shire Hall. Jason Mullins, Oxley Shire Hall. Rachel Vallender, Oxley Shire Hall. Paula McGavin, Oxley Shire Hall. Arthur Parker, Oxley Shire Hall. Bruce Ubigang, Oxley Shire Hall. Bruce Ubigang, Whitfield Rec Reserve, who spreads itself a long way up the King Valley. April Allsop, Whitfield Rec Reserve. Stephen Allsop, Whitfield Rec Reserve. Peter Burrows, Whitfield Recreation Reserve. Bruce Johnson, Whitfield Rec Reserve. Kathy Collins, Whitfield Recreation Reserve. Joe Fitzgerald, Edi Upper Hall. Angus Fitzgerald, Edi Upper Hall. Jared O'Neill, Everton Hall and Rec Reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bustle. I'd like to also point out that the people that have been put on these committees here will be notified of their of being made available to these halls and being accepted by council. They'll be notified prior to the end of the week in writing. I'm trying to find the right word there. I'm rumbling around there. they're confirming their appointment. That's the word I was looking for, to confirm their appointment. Thank you, CEO McGrath. That's why we have him here. Thank you, Councillor Bustle, and we'll move on to the next item. Thank you, Director Goonan. We'll move on to Sustainability and Culture, which is item number 15.1, which is road deviation and land exchange on the old Hume Highway in Row. And I'll hand over to Director Stephen Swart.
Thank you. This item is about a road deviation required because of a previous subdivision of land at 246 Old Hume Highway in Row. A report went to the May Council meeting seeking approval to go through the statutory process to formalise the road deviation and associated land exchange necessary. Public notice of the proposed road deviation and land exchange was given in accordance with the May Council decision, and no submissions were received. So this report tonight is presented to Council to seek Council's approval to finalise the statutory process for the road deviation and land exchange as per the detailed recommendation in the agenda.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the gallery on this report? I'll look for someone to move. Councillor Grant, thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Bustle. Councillor Grant, do you want to talk on this recommendation? Yep. Councillor Bustle. Any other councillor like to talk about? No, thank you. I just state that this is just a bit of tidying up of housekeeping from many years of kind of being incorrect, and we look forward to the owners of these properties being entitled to have what they have and move on. So we'll put the recommendation to the vote, and all those in favour. And again, the recommendation is carried. Director's Ward 15.2 is the land exchange at 84 Parfitt Road, Wangaratta, a very similar type of item. We look forward to your report.
Thank you. Yes, this is another administrative process for land exchange. The land exchange is proposed to provide access to a lot created by a subdivision of land at 84 Parfitt Road, Wangaratta. This report deals with the statutory process required for this land exchange. In May, Council resolved to go through a public notice process. That's been now completed and no submissions have been received. So this report seeks Council's approval to finalise the statutory process for the land exchange as per the detailed recommendation in the agenda.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from the gallery on this point? So I look forward to a mover again, Councillor Grant, and a seconder, please, Councillor Benton. Again, Councillor Grant, give you the opportunity. No, same situation. Thank you. Any other council would like to talk on it? No, we'll put the recommendation on the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you. We'll now move to item number 17, 7.1, which is the biannual audit and risk report. And I'll hand over to CEO Brendan McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the responsibilities of the Audit and Risk Committee is to provide a biennial report to Council on its activities. That was prepared by the committee and gone through the committee for consideration and is tabled tonight for Council to note and is attached to this report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the gallery on this report? Didn't think there would be. I'll look for a mover again. Councillor Fitzpatrick and Councillor Grant again. Councillor Fitzpatrick, nothing to report. Thank you. Any councillors like to talk on this report? We'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. We'll move to 18.1, minutes of the advisory committee meetings. Thank you, CEO McGrath.
Similarly, for the Audit and Risk Committee, the minutes of their meeting on the 14th of May 2024 attached for Council's noting.
Thank you again. Look for if there's nothing from the public gallery, I'll look to remove it. Councillor Fitzpatrick again. Councillor Fuller. Again, any council like to talk on the recommendation? Standard. No, we'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And again, the recommendation is carried. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings an end to our formalised part of it, and we have no notice of motions coming forward, and there's no urgent business. We'll go to public question time. I do have a couple of questions from a gentleman who could not be here at the meeting tonight, so I'll read those questions and look for a response from council. And I thank you to Peter Forsyth for having this question in writing. They are a little bit lengthy, and then the reply, but we will go to question 1 first, and then a response on that, and then we'll get a response on question 2. So As interested voter in the Wangaratta Council election scheduled for October 24, I submit a question that will inform my decision making. Given basically the key criteria for zoning or rezoning of land is proven demand for additional housing in a particular area, where the specific data from the original or maybe subsequent investigations, the clear evidence demands for any type of increased density housing, currently farm zone land, south of Clark's Lane, if available, please show the data. I am assuming decisions made by the Wangaratta planners was evidence-based in order to prioritise human life as referenced in the 2019 Urban Enterprise LDRZ, which is Low Density Residential, and the RRZ strategy, which is the Rural Residential strategy. If there is indeed no specific data, how is it ethical to continue with the risky proposal given the recent Wangaratta Red Zone flood risk rating in an independent climate valuations report on the ABC June 13, 2024? Victorian Water and Housing Minister Harriet Chin appeared on the ABC segment. I'll look specifically to our director over here, Stephen Swart, for a response.
Thank you for that question. The land supply and demand analysis for the municipality was completed as part of the draft low density and rural residential strategy prepared by Urban Enterprise and considered by Council in 2021. The analysis found that there was a need to rezone land to the low density residential and rural living zones, and the report is available on Council's website. The draft strategy then considers candidate areas against a set of criteria to determine preferred areas for potential future rezoning. The criteria included things like flooding, bushfire risk, infrastructure, existing planning policy, and housing needs, and flooding was considered in accordance with the existing flood overlays within the Wangaratta planning scheme.
Thank you. Director Swart, I'll ask you another question, again from Mr. Peter Forsyth. As a ratepayer of Wangaratta, as the Wangaratta Urban Enterprise 2019 Low Density Residential Zone and the RRZ again Rural Residential Zone strategy continues to drag on with no new low density lots created within the rural city of Wangaratta in the past 5 years, what is the current position of the Wangaratta Council regarding the progress, as in the timeline, of the perplexing strategy? Disappointing during the time, the cost of LDRZ lot in Wangaratta has risen from an affordable $280,000 in 2019 to a stagnant / limiting $505,000 in 2024, largely due to chronic decade-long undersupply. Importantly, over the past 3 months, there's been documented that 5 land sales, land rural acreage in Wangaratta, Victoria, according to realestate.com. Given this alarming sales data, has priority been given by the Wangaratta Council to prioritising the 2019 low density strategy to enable a diversity of housing that will hopefully breathe new life into the Wangaratta businesses and residents alike? Director Swart.
Thank you again for that question. Council adopted the rural component of the low density and rural residential strategy prepared by Urban Enterprise in December 21. The adopted parts of the strategy have been drafted into a planning scheme amendment which has received ministerial authorisation and is currently on exhibition. The Wangaratta part of that strategy that Council did not adopt required further investigation. This work has been completed and is planned to be presented to Council at the next meeting in September. Once adopted, further work will be required prior to the rezoning of land through a planning scheme amendment process, which will also include public exhibition of proposed changes to the planning scheme.
Thank you, Director, and thank you for answering those questions. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to speak, I guess, to a couple of points in the second question provided by Mr. Peter Forsyth. And it largely revolves around this concept of diversity of housing. I'm quite tired of hearing the term diversity of housing being wielded and utilised as a justification for development developments of a certain nature. In this instance, developments of low density and rural residential zoning. Because in the planning scheme, the utilisation of that term is quite specific, diversity of housing. It is an objective that the planning scheme supports. However, almost without fail, the planning scheme is talking about housing that is of high density, that has proximity to certain facilities and services. I'll just read a section out of the planning scheme, 16, which gives a broad, overarching, strategic kind of objective for housing, and it's that planning should provide for housing diversity, so we have that specific term, and ensure the efficient provision of supporting infrastructure. Planning should ensure the long-term sustainability of new housing, including access to services, walkability to activity centres, public transport, schools and open space. Planning for housing should include the provision of land for affordable housing. So we have a lot of that similar language and those same concepts. But it's obviously talking about a very different type of housing. So I just want to pick that bone, because I would hate for the broader population of Wangaratta to be hoodwinked and believe that low density or rural residential housing is going to deliver many of those broad strategic objectives. And even less so, I would hope that people don't believe that that is the solution, that form of development, low density, rural residential, spread out, large lots on large pieces of land, are going to do anything at all for housing affordability in this or any other municipality in the state. It's a complete furphy. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
And that's what we're considering when we've got a housing strategy. And that's what we look at, the complexities of housing in the future.
Certainly, yes, and we do look at a number of different aspects of housing, but ultimately this form is of what I would consider a lower priority in terms of what our municipality needs.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack, and I would go against that. I think we need all forms of housing and all forms of land distribution, whether what sizes. That's what people want. They want acres, they want 5 acres, they want 300 square metres, they want 1,000 square metres, and this is what that delivers. So I think the question by Peter Forsyth is fair and reasonable to deliver. He said there that the housing costs at $500,000 for land. There could be more offerings. The more diversity there is in land size, the prices come down and makes it more affordable for people to build housing who want to be out of town rather than paying $500,000. He might be offering land at $300,000 for 5 acres or an acre of land, which gives a lot more diversity that way too. So all forms are necessary.
Yes, and if I may, Mary's, just another section of the planning scheme. So a broad strategic objective is to increase the proportion of housing in designated locations in established urban areas, including underutilised urban land, and this part I emphasise, to reduce the share of new dwellings in greenfield, fringe and dispersed development areas. The broad strategic objectives of the planning scheme would beg to differ, because
this is the planning scheme that's developed out of Melbourne and not for us here directly, so we need to modify things to suit our communities as well. And that's what we do. Thank you. I'll look to the public for general questions, and I would love for anyone to have a general question. If you don't, that's okay. We can get out and have a cup of tea quick. But if anybody would like to ask a general question or anything, I will get Jess up the back. We'll have a roving microphone, and she will come down. I do need you to state your name if you do have a public question, but please feel free, just put your hand up if anybody's got one. It's always great. Yes? Anne Dunstan, and I want you to get up and say your name. Thank you. Nice to have you rather than Steve Kelly. Get up and ask a question.
Thank you, Dean.
But you're open, Steve, to ask one too.
This is directed to Marcus, if possible. Marcus, the re-sheeting program for our roads, is that publicly available to see where our roads actually sit against the rating systems, so that we have a predictability about which roads are more likely to be repaired than
You're asking the question through the chair for me
Yes.
to Director Marcus.
Yes.
Thank you, Ian. Director Gurney?
You've only got to wait 2 more meetings in and he's gone. It's not yet, is the answer. It is something that we are working on because we understand that that would make it a lot easier for everyone, a little bit like bin night, to be able to look up when my road's going to be done. So we certainly will be looking to implement something along those lines over the next 12 months. I don't think it's going to be quite as good as when's my bin going to be done, but we will definitely work to get to that point. You can also just put in a CR and we'll be able to tell you generally where you sit on the list, so that will give you kind of a month range at least. But yeah, we don't have a full list.
And through the chair, just when that list potentially has been created or thought about, is there a possibility to see whether your road has been reported already rather than receiving multiple reports from the same neighbourhood, which increases your workload in turn?
So our customer request system already joins similar liked requests together. So we actually do see that. And then the teams actually out in the field get a list of that as well. So I suppose to answer your question, no, you don't directly see that, but it doesn't actually increase the amount of work for the teams because it's done in the background, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Anne. Does anybody else have a question? No? Right. Ladies and gentlemen, to end this meeting, I have to say this. The CEO and myself often catch up with numerous councils around Victoria, and I'll talk about the local ones close to us here, such as Wodonga and Shepparton, and who tell us they get no one to their council meetings, or maybe one, with larger municipalities than ours, and they may get 1 or 2, and a lot of the time, 0 to their council meeting. So to see the amount of people here, and we always get people at our council meetings, which is fantastic. It means the community cares. Thank you for being part of a great community out here at Oxley. We appreciate your time. And again, on behalf of the rural city of Wangara, thank you again tonight. We'll close the meeting. We look forward to having a cup of tea. Thank you, everybody.